Hey everyone, it's hashtag Malkin Live. Thanks to our YouTube chatters for their patience as we ironed out a couple of technical difficulties. This is going to be a really interesting show. You're not going to hear this kind of discussion about these kinds of issues pretty much anywhere else. I've been committed to helping, supporting young, true conservatives, nationalists, America First activists on college campuses across the country. And there are battles that mirror the battles that many of us who consider ourselves America First on the national level are having, of course, with what we call Con Inc. or the Beltway Swamp, the moderates, the mushes, the liberals, the squishes, whatever you want to call them. And one of the biggest battles, of course, is over this whole idea of cancel culture. Cancel culture, contrary to the likes of Ben Shapiro, is not simply a creation of the left. And in fact, it's something that many true conservatives on campuses have to battle within the spectrum of the so-called right. And one of the biggest battles, of course, has happened at the University of Maine college campus. Those of you who have followed my book tour over the last 6 to 8 months will well remember in January, it was like Where's Waldo or Whack-A-Mole. 5 different venues canceled when the brave University of Maine college Republicans invited me to come and speak. And it wasn't primarily, although there were some, of course, leftist type agitators who were involved, especially online in trying to get our event canceled. But there were, unfortunately, people who were fragging, and the military term of lobbing grenades from inside the tent. A lot of that was, feeling and speculation that these kinds of forces were at work. But the University of Maine College Republicans have now smoking guns that reveal the extent to which GOP officials were involved in trying to punish them for their dissident views. So I am going to bring in now, let's see if I can do this. Let's do it this way. Hello, hi, Charlie.
Hi, Michelle.
Who is the University of Maine College Republican president and also leading the Maine Federation of College Republicans. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And awesome.
Statewide.
And then we've got also Shay Justice, who is the vice president of UMCR, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Very good to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks both of you for joining us. The first thing I want to do is provide a little bit of background. And Charlie, I'm going to go to you on this question.
Yep.
I want you to tell me, first of all, what year you are at University of Maine, where you're from, and how long you've been with the College Republicans.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just actually finishing up my last semester here at University of Maine, so I'm a senior. I've been with UMaine College Republicans, I want to say, since January 2018, I believe, is when I first joined the group. And really, Michelle, it's been an ongoing struggle ever since to just have a right to exist and have a right to our own ideas and conservative ideas on campus.
Yes.
And constant.
And Shay, how long have you been with the University of Maine College Republicans, and what year are you at the school?
I'm currently a sophomore, and I think I joined around, I think it was a little bit after Thanksgiving of 2018. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've been with the group ever since. That was when I finally fled the Democrat plantation.
Got it. So that's an interesting story. So, you came on this journey from left to right.
Oh, yeah.
And
now I found out that, unfortunately, it seems that the Republican Party has been infiltrated by Democrats. So
yeah. Welcome to our world.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
so
exactly.
Charlie, tell us a little bit about the chapter and what it is that has distinguished your chapter and caused a lot of triggering, I suppose.
Sure.
Establishment forces.
I would say it really kind of goes back to December of 2018, when we had our first annual Christmas party, and we entitled it "Deck the Wall." Kind of a fun pun on the Christmas song "Deck the Halls," to go with Donald Trump's plan to build a border wall, which we, as a Republican club on campus, wholeheartedly support. We supported it then, and we still do now. That triggered a lot of people, which we really didn't expect. We thought it was kind of a fun political name. And ever since, there have been people on not only the left, so student agitators, faculty agitators, the typical folks you'll find on a college campus, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, those types of people. Not only have they been working against us, but now we've uncovered really a long-standing, multi-year spanning conspiracy to, and I don't even know if it's a conspiracy at this point, it's just truth. A plan, a plot to remove us as the rightful UMaine College Republican club on campus and to replace us with a band of self-described, at least based on some of their things that they like and retweet on Twitter, unbeknowingly to a lot of people, AOC supporting, Democrats, rhinos, fake Republicans.
Yes.
And to this point, they've succeeded. I mean, we haven't given up, not to say the least. We haven't at all. In fact, we've only been fighting harder. But it becomes really tough to fight against the left when your own executive director of your Republican Party in the state is working against you.
Yes, and we will definitely get into the meat of that. I think from a sort of a view from 30,000 feet, that what you're experiencing is something that college Republican clubs that are made up of actual conservatives, actual Trump supporters, actual believers in American sovereignty are facing, because whether it's state GOP officials or administrators or the fake Republicans who are trying to upend you, trying to hijack you, you're not, first of all, you're not supposed to have fun. You're not allowed to have fun, right?
Right.
Deck the wall. You're not supposed to joke about that, right? And they get the vapors, right? They need smelling salts. And then the other thing is, apparently, despite the fact that when you have all of these Con Inc. Youth campus groups talking about culture wars and talking about standing up to the left-wing mob, it turns out they're actually rather disingenuous about that. And I want to make sure that our viewers know about another event that you had and another post that you made that also caused consternation among the establishment forces, because it's very relevant to especially the riots that we've been having over statues and names. Tell us about that.
Oh, being in favor of Columbus Day. Yeah. So we made this post saying that we supported Columbus Day. We didn't support changing it to, Indigenous Peoples Day or whatever PC name they want to remake it as. And it blew up. Like, everyone was talking about it. Everyone at school was commenting. That's when we were really getting tons and tons and tons of hate, just a deluge of like liberal trolls and all that. And we put an image of just Aztecs like ripping someone's heart out. And then that got called Spanish war propaganda. This is native
by our own dean of students.
Spanish war propaganda.
Let me hop in. This is something that we have had substantiated by historical researchers from the university or state university down in Florida. They reached out to us after hearing about our story, and they said, listen, you're completely right here. This is considered canon by the Mestizo Aztec culture, and the savagery that you're describing that was present is completely accurate. And listen, Michelle, we were not in any way equating modern day Native Americans to Aztecs, and we never said that, and we never have had that point of view. We were simply trying to draw some context to the world at the time of the life of Christopher Columbus, at the time that he came and discovered America. And we're just simply trying to draw some context. If you're going to be so critical of Christopher Columbus, then maybe you should consider what the common ways of life were at the time. And that's all we were doing, Michelle. We were trying to stand up for a pillar of Italian culture in America, which is Christopher Columbus. And that set a lot of people off.
And say what you will about the man, but he's still an important figure in history. He's still a pioneer. And, at least he wasn't cutting people's hearts out and kicking them down stone pyramids. So.
Right. And this did make the local news. There was a backlash that you faced for doing the post, and then the mayor of Waterville, Nick Isgro, was also looped into this as well because he defended you, right?
Right. No, Nick Isgro put out a post. Originally we were defending Nick with our post. He had signed a proclamation for the city of Waterville about Columbus Day and saying that they would not be celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day as dictator Mills has decided. And all we did was put out this post saying, maybe we should be proud of our history, our heritage, and recognize and not erase it like so many Democrats are looking to do nowadays.
Right. Now, you didn't back down. And you didn't cave to this mob and the outrage that was generated for defending Columbus and Columbus Day. And by the way, just like I mentioned, of course, that's all very prescient. I mean, when was that? That was last fall, right?
Right. Yes,
right.
That was fall 2019.
Yeah. And I mean, you could have entirely predicted that, what has it been, 6, 7, 8 months, that Columbus statues would be thrown and hurled into rivers. I mean, this is exactly the kind of cultural war and the battle over the historic American nation that now has just broken out into full force. But you were there at the forefront of that. So by this time, your group, of course, now had a national reputation for being unapologetic, and of course, I'm sure all of the usual recriminations and smears of being racist and xenophobic and all this kind of stuff are things that you guys had to endure.
I've lost count of the number of times I've been called, racist, homophobic, xenophobic, LGBTQ, LMNOP phobic, the whole shebang. It's nonstop, it's unceasing, and it's, quite frankly, when the left can't refute your claims based on evidence and fact, which they often, almost all the time can't, they resort to ad hominem attacks and name calling. And it's something that has become really so present nowadays since what happened to us. I mean, even fellow America First student, Jaden McNeil, who I know you're a big fan of, who put out a post about George Floyd and was hit with an immense amount of backlash for, calling a thug a thug. Yeah. Sorry. You hold a gun to a pregnant woman's chest. Maybe he shouldn't have been killed in the way that he did. I think not many people are contesting that, but I think we also shouldn't be glorifying him as a saint at all.
Trying to turn him into some sort of martyr for Black America.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting, Shay? I mean, he basically has achieved sainthood now. God help you if you make even a mild joke, let alone an off-color one about him on a college campus. Then you're treated like public enemy number one. So how have you dealt with that, Shay? With the so-called backlash to your club over the last year.
It's been rough. We have, unfortunately, there have been members who have been scared. I remember there was one kid named Tim. He was basically afraid to come to our meetings because he was afraid people would harass him in his personal life. There have been other members who have basically said, we agree with everything you've said, but we literally, we can't take the pressure. We don't want to get hurt. We don't want to be canceled.
Yes.
And it's hard to, Charlie and I and the previous vice president, we've had to try our best to lead from the front, and not the back or the top. We want to take responsibility, take ownership. We don't want to put our members in a position that we ourselves would not be in first.
Right.
But it still is quite distressing to see that the left has created just such a culture of fear on our campus and on many other campuses too.
Yeah, absolutely. A culture of fear. And so then we get to sort of my kind of entree into, interfacing with your club. So last fall, so that was Columbus Day, October 2019. And then several weeks later, there was a remarkable phenomenon that was happening on college campuses across the country. There were young conservative men, nationalists, who were challenging Con Inc. organizations, one of them which I had spoken for 17, 18 years, the Young America's Foundation, and of course, TPUSA. And of course, I step forward. It's a story that many of the people who are watching are very familiar with, to defend the not only the free speech, but many of the underlying foundational principles that many of these young men represented in challenging the establishment, right? So then you extended an invitation to me to come speak in the middle of all of that. And I hadn't actually seen it because I guess, Charlie, the invitation was sent on Facebook, and I don't have any social media manager.
Yeah.
So I didn't see it until after I read about the invitation in an article, I think that was printed by some higher ed magazine, because your then faculty advisor, Amy Freed, a professor.
Faculty advisor for no more than 2 weeks, by the way.
Okay, and I want you to talk more about that. But she was making national news for having a big virtue signaling show of resigning because you had dared to invite me to come speak on your campus. Uh-oh, where did Charlie go?
He's frozen.
Oh no, that sounds like a conspiracy. Hopefully he'll get back to us. But see that, wait, actually here he is. He's coming back on. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That is a conspiracy. That is like a Russian
I don't know what just
troll
happened.
Bot conspiracy. Let me see if I can get rid of that one. Okay, so yeah. So tell us about when she became your advisor, and then 2 weeks later why she resigned.
Yeah, sure. Well, originally we had an advisor who had, at the beginning of this school semester, moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan. So we were kind of in a state of limbo. And once we had all this controversy about Columbus Day come out and about our unabashed defense of heritage and history, that was when really the student government decided to come around and say, hey, listen up. If you don't have an advisor in a week or 2 weeks or whatever their deadline was, you're going to be derecognized. And so we said, well, okay, we've had issues with this before, but we're happy to get another advisor. And over the next 2 weeks, we felt like we talked to every single professor on campus, including all of the people in the political science department. And the only person who would actually engage with us was this woman named Amy Freed, who is the chair of the political science department at the University of Maine. And she said that, even though she disagreed with us, that she would be an advocate for free speech and sign on so that we could have an advisor and be present. And so we said, okay, we're a little dubious, but we said, what's the worst that could happen? Little did we know. So we signed her on to be our advisor. And after no more than 2 weeks, exactly what you described happened. We put out a tweet inviting you to campus. You never even saw it at the time.
Right.
And over the mere thought that we would invite you or think about inviting you, she made a big show of resigning. And I think it's clear to me at this point what her whole plan throughout this experience was. She never intended to be our advisor for any period longer than I think a month. And she just used this as an excuse to get us derecognized, because that's what happened. Like I said, we had gone to almost every other professor we thought would help us on campus, and they had said, no, we don't want to be involved with any kind of controversy. They don't want to be associated with anyone who stirs up the kind of ire that we do just by expressing traditional conservative values.
Yeah, and this was
And
also
so
right before break too. So because she left, and we lost our recognition because she stopped being our advisor, and we have to go to the, I believe it's the student government to get your recognition back, and also have an advisor. The student government was out of session over break, of course.
Right, because this abutted our winter vacation. So naturally, we didn't really have any kind of recourse, and we were essentially put out for then a month and a half, during which I want to say we sent an email to every single faculty at the University of Maine, practically begging for anyone to advise us, because we just wanted to exist as we've existed for years on campus, and as our right is to exist as a political group. Eventually, someone, Leonard Cass, a biology professor, agreed. And at this point, this is kind of when we eventually were able to have you in Maine, and I'll kind of pop it back to you to go over how that went.
Yeah, well, it's really one of the most memorable episodes of my entire career. I mean, in almost 30 years of doing the job that I do, I've never experienced anything like the cancel culture, the witch hunting against a group of young kids who just wanted to hear my perspective on especially the America First policies that I'd been on the book trail talking about with Open Borders Incorporated. It became much more than just some event to talk about a book, though, because you kids and some really great patriots, grassroots activists and supporters, what we had to deal with. In the end, it was 5 different venues that canceled. Is that right, Charlie?
4 or 5 that canceled. And we ended up in the basement of a town hall in a little town called Sabattis, Maine, thanks to a grassroots activist who chaired that town's local committee, who said, hey, we'll call an emergency meeting and you'll have the floor. So we packed, I think, almost 200 people into a meeting space meant for maybe 50. And it was just fantastic.
It was fantastic. I wanted to see if I could pull up one of the pictures from it. It was the picture of when we first walked into the venue. Let me see if I can get that up. But yeah, we mentioned Nick Isgro. He was definitely one, and his dad, helping us out there. And then, of course, the congressional candidate, Adrian Bennett, was there, and the Sabattis City Council, right, town council, which had they had to declare some sort of emergency meeting in order to be able to secure the venue, and it was freezing, right? And like we had to keep updating people every time we got canceled, and I mean, I don't know, there was sort of like a Soviet underground feel to it all. That was just
really I think we didn't announce the final location until an hour before, so that it wouldn't be able to drop it on us. It was wild.
It was definitely wild. Let me see if I've just got to show this picture because it was really,
definitely
really special. Let me see. Do that one. I don't have a producer.
I know, wouldn't that be nice?
Let's see. Here it is. Yeah, do you guys see that?
Yeah. Perfect.
From when we just. That was just, it was a really amazing, magical night. And then afterwards, of course, what was interesting is that all of a sudden, these Johnny-come-lately defenders of free speech had to grudgingly acknowledge that, this was a terrible thing for the reputation of Maine, right? And Shay, I totally could have pulled the whole race card thing. What's wrong? You don't want to hear a brown girl speak in Maine, right? We could have done that. But no, we're not. That's not how we play things. But and then even after the event, of course, things were still going on behind the scenes, Charlie, with your battle over the name of the chapter.
Right. Let me take it back now after that. So at this point, we had gotten a new advisor, and so we put in the paperwork after being led on a Easter egg hunt over multiple emails and multiple days of, I need this signature. Oh no, you actually need these 3 pieces of paperwork filled out too. And eventually, once I got everything together and they had delayed me just enough, I was informed that, oh, just in case you'd like to know, another group earlier this morning has filed paperwork to register themselves as the Humane College Republicans. And so this was, unbeknownst to us, a charge led by Amy Freed, the same person that dropped us after 2 weeks. And it was chaired, and still is chaired, by someone who calls themselves a Trump supporter, but retweets pro-abortion, anti-gun tweets by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and a vice president who I've just been told, and I've just been shown some retweets and likes of theirs recently on Twitter, who's retweeting and liking things like the Lincoln Project, which is an anti-Trump campaign that's been started by rhino fake Republicans to try and retake the Republican Party from the People's Party of Donald Trump. And so these aren't people that I don't think any self-respecting Republican would call good representation. And they're these people who are now taking over our club. And let me tell you, the student government, they jumped. They said, oh my gosh, an opportunity to get rid of these people who we've been unable to remove due to their right to exist by simply recognizing someone else. Perfect. We'll take it. And so we file our paperwork and we get told we will have to compete with this other group. But because they filed their paperwork a couple hours earlier on the same day, they would likely be given our name, regardless of any kind of past precedent that we had by being duly elected leaders of the group for years. They would be given the name of the group.
Okay, and I pulled up, I don't know if you can see, but I pulled up here the great graphic that you did. Yeah. So we're looking at,
February 4th. They recognized the other group who were not recognized. And this is also relevant because I chair the Maine Federation of College Republicans. I'm recognized by the College Republican National Committee nationwide. And we don't recognize, as a federation, we don't recognize this College Republican group. And you're not a College Republican group, according to the CRNC bylaws, unless you're recognized by your federation chair and by your federation executive board. And these guys aren't. Yes. So out of options, we go to the state committee. So the Maine State Republican Committee. They're all wonderful people. The people who are state committee members, men and women, grassroots people on the ground, like they're just the backbone of the Republican Party, and they support us. They do to this day, and they did back then. And it took me speaking in front of them for about 15 minutes to really show them that we needed their help. And the executive board, with the exception of Nick Isgro, really wasn't interested in supporting us. Mm-hmm. So the committee voted unanimously to write a statement supporting us. But one thing the executive board would not do is condemn this other group. And I didn't at the time understand why they would do that. As the proper group, I assumed that we would be given the full support of the Maine GOP leadership. But that wasn't the case. They wrote a half-assed letter. I think you can see it on that timeline there, that kind of sort of says what we wanted them to without really saying it, so that they could have some sort of plausible deniability. And they don't make any effort to denounce the rogue actions of this other group trying to steal our club. And so that really concerned me, and it bothered me. And during the student government meeting, actually, is another thing I should bring up, it was made clear to us that there had been communications between the executive director of the Maine GOP, Jason Savage, and the new president of this other group, Anna Z. And we had attempted to get these documents from student government. They, of course, said that they were never provided them by the other group, so they couldn't give them to us. But it had been made clear to us that there was some sort of communication that existed. So at this point, we reached out and sent an email to the state committee and to Jason Savage asking what the communication was and where was the letter that had been described of support from the Maine GOP for this fake group. And then we were told, and Jason Savage simply denied it. He said there was never any letter from him to this other group. They had never had any communications, and he had known nothing about it. Lo and behold, we didn't believe him at all, quite frankly, because he's been known to, well, quite frankly, not tell the truth all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, just recently, we have received the results of a Freedom of Access Act, which is the law in Maine that allows us to request documents, emails, records from public institutions such as the University of Maine from public employees like their faculty. So we were able to get a treasure trove, over 15,000 emails from the dean of our university, from different faculty members, all, in a panic discussing what they would do about the UMaine College Republicans, what were their options, how were they going to deal with us. But there was really one email in particular that we received that, in my opinion, blows this whole thing wide open. And I can pull it up here, Michelle.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can set up my screen share here.
Okay, great.
Let's see. Share my screen. Here, I'll pull it up here. Doesn't seem like it wants to do it properly. Whatever. I'll just do that. Is it coming up now?
Let's see.
Yeah.
I can see it. Hold on. Let's see. There we go.
There we go.
All right. So we have this email that we got. I'll zoom in a little bit. And it starts down here. It starts with, gosh, let me see. It starts down at the bottom here. It goes, this is an email from the person who wanted to and has started this fake club against us, between her and Amy Freed, the advisor. It says, thanks for the advice. I'll most likely lay low for now. If you happen to have a number I could reach you at for a quick chat, I just got off the phone with Jason Savage, who had a few updates. Thanks for your time. And then they block out her name because she is a student, but you can see they failed to redact her name up here. So you can see who this is coming from. And it's pretty clear. And this, in my opinion, we'll go on with the rest of what it says, but right here, it shows there is a first name basis between the person who has started this fake organization trying to steal our name and the executive director of the Maine Republican Party. It shows that there's an ongoing rapport between them. They talk on the phone together. They send each other updates. And so it goes back from Freed, I'll talk around 2:30, 4:30. Thanks so much. I'll try for 2:30. I'm available at this time. And then another one. Hi, Professor Freed. Jason said he will try for a 9:30 a.m. call if that works for you. Works for me. Perfect. Thanks so much. So that's basically it. I'll stop sharing there. We've made all this info public on a shared Google Drive folder. You can find it at our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/MaineYR. And on one of our most recent posts today, we described this in detail. But this email communication that we received from UMaine shows an ongoing attempt, in my opinion, between Jason Savage, the executive director of the Maine Republican Party, Amy Freed, a known radical Democrat, chair of the political science department at UMaine, and this girl, Anna Z., who has now begun and is now president of the fake UMaine College Republicans. It shows a collaboration between them to remove us. And that's, I'm at a loss for words, really, when I kind of go over it like that. It just blows my mind that there is this kind of underhanded dealings within our own party by our own very top party executives.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for words, really.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to add anything on to
Shay,
that?
I wanted to bring you in as well, because like you said, you left the Democrat plantation and then, you've been immersed in this battle against people that are supposed to be on your side. It is
terrifying, and I am very embarrassed too that we have to even go through this. I mean, I know it's necessary because if we hadn't caught this, if we hadn't been proactive, these people would still be getting away with mismanaging our party. Like, by the way, for instance, the Trump campaign has, I believe, for some reason, been putting all their effort into Portland, which is a big city in Maine. It's unwinnably blue, when they could be out in places like Skowhegan, which is very much like the Rust Belt. It had a lot of factories that got taken away. You know, it's a dying town, basically. You know, the sort of people who would be very avid Trump voters, but for some reason, we're not out there. We're down in Portland. We're campaigning around people who we know will always hate us. So do you think that has something to do with the fact that we have a GOP official who is working with Democrats, that there's this level of mismanagement? I think those two are related.
Yeah.
And kind of real quick, while we're on the subject of Maine Trump victory, going back to our Columbus Day post, when we made this about defending Columbus Day and rejecting the idea of replacing it with Indigenous Peoples Day, I received a call the very next day from none other than Joe Turcotte, who is the leader in charge of Trump Victory Maine. And basically on this phone call, he said to me, listen, I don't know what kind of relationship you want us to have between your club, your federation, and our campaign, but if you're going to be making these racist, inflammatory posts like this that are undefendable, you are not going to be the club on campus anymore. Yeah. I will use my power to remove you. And at the time I said, I don't know who you think you are, but I'm not going to be bullied by someone who calls themselves a Trump person, but then calls defending Columbus Day racist.
Racist, yes.
And I think this shows what he's done to do it. He went to Jason Savage. He said, how do we get rid of these kids at UMaine who are defaming our good Republican name? Yes. I'm sure is their thought process.
Yes.
And this was the plan that they hatched. And another thing that highlights that is there's a student at UMaine. I'm not going to go over his name because, you know what, I will. His name's Cody Porter, and he's a member of the Trump Victory campaign. And he called us himself our ally. And now he's completely gone against that. He's gone on record on Facebook calling us white supremacists. and he's just abandoned any concept.
Diverse political campus, by the way.
He's abandoned any concept of professionality and dignity. And they've just tried to cave and pander to the left, this other fake club that he's now a part of. And it doesn't even work. They said, listen, I don't know what you guys think about this fake, calling us fake, the old UMaine College Republicans, but we're the new UMaine College Republicans. We're not racist. We support President Donald Trump and blah, blah, blah. And that still didn't even work. Calling us white supremacists still didn't work. He was attacked and lambasted by UMaine students for a simple support of our president. So I think this goes to show you there is no winning with these people. Yeah. You can betray your own party. You can toss your own people to the wolves by calling them white supremacists, and it still doesn't get you anywhere with them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Shay.
There's this old saying that I think conservatives would be would do well to memorize from the French Revolution, which is no enemies to the right, no friends to the left.
That's right.
And the way that we've just been totally stabbed in the back. And I don't know Cody Porter very well. I don't think he's a secret Marxist like Anna is. But the fact that he would still throw us under the bus, I don't know how he can look in the mirror and call himself a Christian and still do that. Like, nothing we have said on our Facebook page is out of line with what the president has said. I think it's frankly disgusting that we see him stabbing us in the back like this.
This is someone who, by the way, is employed.
He also stole some
Trump
of our
Victory
stuff,
campaign.
We had campaign materials, and he just took them. But water under the bridge, I guess.
Right, he's a thief on top of everything else. And Charlie, you just said that he's working for the Trump Victory campaign.
He has since the beginning of this. He worked with Joe Turcotte, the same person who called our Columbus Day post racist.
Right.
And if you go back kind of at the beginning of that graphic, it talks about, and I've got an email that we received back in, gosh, I don't know, June 2019, that describes him trying to sow some sort of revolution against myself and past Vice Chairman Jeremiah Childs at the time, and it shows that this has been ongoing for a long time. It's unending, and it feels like every day I lift up the carpet and I see new bugs who are trying to infiltrate us and take us down from the inside.
Right. So now you have called for Jason Savage to resign. Are you getting grassroots party support?
We are, to an extent. I think there's a lot of people who have had a lot of respect for Jason in the past.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to believe this is true.
Who really just, exactly, they don't want to believe that their own party is capable of such underhanded left-wing tactics. And I think that it's starting to get through to them once we've shown this evidence, this clear collusion between someone who we don't want involved with our party at all, Amy Fried, and the very top levels of our party. I think it's starting to wake them up. I think the absolute failure of a state convention that was hosted last week on Zoom, they didn't even host it in person. They were too afraid of Dictator Mills that they hosted it on Zoom. I was one of the state committee members to vote against that, by the way.
Yeah, and are you going to tell them how they actually barred a lot of people from being delegates to this meeting?
During this state convention, they had a couple resolutions, and it was just such a shit show. They didn't even allow half of the people who wanted to comment, shut down the voting too early. Half of the delegates weren't able to vote on certain issues. Half of them weren't able to raise their hand in the function that Zoom allowed. And it was just so clear to me that this convention was orchestrated in such a way by the party leadership, excluding Vice Chairman Nick Isgro, who was not even invited to the convention, by the way. Vice Chairman of the party normally takes a large role in the convention, wasn't even invited to the convention by his own party chair and party executor. Yeah. It shows such an intention to twist and kind of modify everything to exactly what they want.
An entire county of people were not allowed to go. Like the entirety of Saginaw County was just barred from going, no reason. My friend and I, a member of my club, and I had already, we had all the stuff done to be delegates. My friend even, my club member even paid the $40.
Filled out the paperwork, paid the dues.
Then got refunded that money for no reason and just said, we're not taking any delegates from.
They were told, oh, the paperwork wasn't submitted on time. I guess you can't be a delegate. Sorry.
Wow.
He even offered to do the paperwork and everything himself. So they really have no excuse.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I just want to make sure that people understand what's going on here, why it's so relevant to the battle on the right in the larger big picture.
Absolutely.
So, there's a conspiracy. It's not a theory, it's a fact that there was a conspiracy to delegitimize your club for expressing mainstream pro-Trump views, whether it was on Columbus Day, the wall, free speech issues, and inviting me to come speak. And this has been a pitched battle that's gone on for, it's been a couple of years now, right, Charlie?
Yeah.
If you look at that timeline, and you had this interlocutor, this operative essentially in Amy Fried, and she is very vocal and active on Twitter. I'm going to see if I can share her Twitter page so people know where she is, at AS Fried. And by the way, I had done a public records request a while back too, and among the emails that were turned over in the trove that I got were many emails from her casting herself as the victim. Do you remember this? Do you guys remember this?
Yeah.
Oh, she gets one anonymous negative email, and all of a sudden she's like a martyr, right? She's like freaking Joan of Arc, compared to all of the attacks that your club has gotten, and the smears on your reputation. But they live for this kind of thing, and she has been a constant one-woman smear machine against your club, against me, against anyone who is associated with us. She went after Adrienne Bennett and her campaign, called her all sorts of names, the worst sins that you could accuse people of. And she is and what people need to know is she is a tax-funded professor still, right? She's
she's chair of the political science department.
I mean, it's just,
you can't make this up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure she's working on a book deal and possibly a partnership with the Lincoln Project.
Yeah,
right. So I think the more people who understand what's going on, see these emails, go to the Facebook page. I mean, because you've got the entire the latest
we released all of the info that we've gotten. There are multiple communications in there between me and the state committee. We've released everything. We want to be as transparent as possible because I really believe the facts speak for themselves in this matter. Anyone who's able to look at A, B, and C shows a pretty clear correlation.
And this really hurts me because I have people who look to me as a young conservative activist leader. Like I have a friend, for instance, I have a friend named Summer who is trying to spread awareness. She's a Christian. She's spreading awareness about Christian values. She has her own YouTube channel, and she comes to me with questions. And now I have to tell her that that the GOP elements in the GOP are acting against her, are using the trust she had in the Republican Party as the defender of freedom and Christianity in this country against her. They're abusing that.
Right.
And I really don't know what to say. It's unconscionable.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
And I know we're almost out of time here, but I want to kind of finish with something that I think everyone needs to know. And I think if you watch Tucker Carlson, he is, I think, one of the last few people in the mainstream media, throughout the rest of Fox, throughout all of the other left-wing news sites and channels. He is one of the last on his show every night at 8 p.m. Eastern. He's one of the last people who is unabashedly America first and who is a true conservative. And he is not afraid to stand up to the people in the party who need to be stood up to, whether or not it's at the state level or even the president himself. He's not afraid to criticize people who need to be criticized. But listen, here's the thing. What's happening to us in the state of Maine
is happening
as unique as it seems. It's not. I have connections with many other chairs of state Republican groups, and I can name at least 3 others who are either fighting their own state Republican committee or even the CRNC, College Republican National Committee leadership at the very top that have worked to impeach them from within, to remove real America First pro-Trump Republicans from our party, from our youth movement, where it's most important. If the youth movement dies, the Republican Party dies. And it's so important for people to remember that, and for people to be fighting and not giving in. You cannot cave to the mob, because caving to Columbus Day today means tearing down statues of George Washington and bulldozing Mount Rushmore tomorrow. Yes. It's a never-ending cycle with these people. And you can't forget that, and you can't stop defending what is right.
Absolutely. Shay?
I have college Republican friends, like my friend Dominic from Michigan. He's been threatened by a GOP official for being unabashedly America first. I have friends another friend in Arizona, I believe, who has also faced trouble with his club getting derecognized, and also basically all of California too. I think their college Republicans, their federations split because of this problem. So I really think that from what I've seen and who I've talked to, I would say that there is a significant portion of the GOP which is actually basically secret Democrats.
It's the never Trumpers. They've gone
Yeah.
into hiding. They've concealed themselves as Trump supporters, now laying their plans to either sabotage a Trump 2020 presidency or to, once it happens, not let it amount to anything.
Yeah. And if Trump doesn't make it, they're going to blame us for this. They're going to say,
of course they are.
They're going to say, oh, we weren't tolerant enough. We weren't inclusive enough. We didn't bow to the gods of progress enough. And they're going to stab the backbone of America. They're going to screw it over, and then they're going to just leave us behind. They're going to leave us in the dust. They think they can recruit from. They think in changing their message, they can recruit from all the new people that the left wants to include in this country illegally. And you can even see how out of touch they are. Like even with Cody Porter, he was trying to recruit liberals to join the group by disavowing our club, right? He thinks by not standing strong with us and toadying to the administration of the school and to these subversive elements in Maine GOP that's a winning strategy for conservatism in America. It is not. It is, if Trump fails in 2020, and I think I think there are a lot of Jason Savages out there, so I think there's a very real chance he might. It'll be because of this subversion in our party. I think conservatives need to wake up. You need to ask, who is your county chair and who is your state chair? And you need to really look into, are these people looking out for you and your communities?
No question about it. No question about it. Draining the swamp starts in your own backyard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I admire both of you so much for mounting this fight, for not giving in. It's disgraceful what adults in the GOP are doing to the future of our country. You guys are the future. That's why I'm pulling for you always, and you will always have a special place in my heart. And like you said, both of you, this is part of a larger battle that's going on in college Republican chapters across the country. And in so many ways, the CRNC is like the establishment GOP in selling out our country. You've got open borders and globalists, neoliberals. They're selling us out on domestic policy, social policy, foreign policy. And that's why it's so important for Maine conservatives out there to get behind both of you and your chapter, and to echo your call for Jason Savage to resign over this toxic conspiracy. And by the way, I think Amy Fried should go too. I hope that President Trump will hear about this. We'll definitely tag him on a tweet, because we've got executive orders that are supposed to protect conservatives on college campuses. It would be nice if there was some meat on those bones.
Yes,
and I recommend that everybody go to your Facebook page, and definitely, guys, keep in touch with me, and we'll do this again when you have another, hopefully, good update.
Absolutely. Thanks so
All
much.
right. Take care, Shay. Take care, Charlie.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.